Hey, it's that day of the week again. Let's do some form checks. Hey guys, welcome back to another Form Check Friday. I'm Paul. Clint is sleeping peacefully next to me. Just got him back from 4 days of boarding while I was in Las Vegas. My fiance was an event planner and she was helping to open a brand new hotel in Vegas, and I tagged along. Great time, totally screwed up my diet. We are in the final week of our fat loss challenge on Reddit. Everybody's been crushing it. A lot of people have hit their goals. Some lost, 13 pounds, 10 pounds. I think we have someone higher than that. I can't remember the number, but this is the last few days. We're checking in on Monday for our final check-in. I am still about half a pound over. And after this weekend of good dinners in Vegas and cocktails, it's going to be tough. I think I was like 219 this morning. I'm trying to get to 214. So it's going to be protein shakes and water for the next few days or until Monday. And yeah, hopefully I can hit it. But either way, I got real close and everybody else had a good time. So we'll do this again. The group accountability thing has really been the best part of it. So if you're interested, we'll do it again. Maybe we'll do it quarterly or something, or twice a year, but we'll figure it out. Anyway, we got form checks, your form checks today. So I think we only have a couple today. I think we've got like 2 or 3. But let's get into it and see who we can help. As you guys know, I have not seen any of these, so we're doing them all together. All right, Dr. Kudos is back. Neil, we've been working on his bench press. So here's a follow-up bench press video. Your feedback last time was to fix my grip and flex everything before unracking the bar. Let me know what you think. Thanks. Okay, so the grip issue last time was he was, I believe, not turning his hand when he set up on the bar. So if you, just as a quick recap, if you missed it last week, if you grab with your knuckles parallel to the bar, just straight across like this, right? Like most people will be tempted to do. When you go to take it out, the bar will sit back in your fingers. And you've got all this distance between the forearm, which you're pushing up, and the weight. So that's extra leverage. We don't want that. We want the weight as close to the directly over the forearm as we can get it. And the simple fix for that is, rather than just put your hand on the bar and squeeze, you put your hand on the bar, turn, and then squeeze. And when you go to take it out, it'll sit right over your forearm. So very easy fix, makes the lift a lot more efficient, but a lot of people don't know that. So we had to tell Neil, and let's see if he corrected it and how it looked. So here we go. Okay. So let's just check that grip before we even start with this. Let's see if I can see him set it up. Okay. So yeah, looks a little better there. I would like to see next time you actually set the grip up if I can make that request. So just rather than starting the video with your hands already on the bar, I want to see the part where you turn it, because that'll be useful. But let's check it out. Looks better anyway. Let's see the overall movement here. So we got what we're looking for at the bottom. First of all, is he taking a breath, squeezing his chest up, pulling his shoulders back, driving with his legs. The feet look further back, tucked in under your butt, which is going to help with stability. And then on the chest, we're looking for vertical forearms here, right? So if his grip was out here, we would see forearms like that. And if his grip was too close, we would see forearms like that, which both instances shorten the travel of the range of motion around the shoulder, right? If I'm here and I have this grip, my elbow travels far back. But if I'm here and I bring my hands closer, my elbow comes up. If I'm wider, my elbow comes up. So we want the full range of motion around the bar. All right, so let's see. Let's just go back and watch this whole thing. Let me see if I can get these out of the way, because I have to cut those out later. Okay, so we'll just watch the set and see how it looks, then I'll give some feedback here. Good. Okay. Woo, come on, buddy. Okay, so we've got a heavy set for you. This is kind of a grind. And it looks a lot better than before. So your lower body, your legs were shaking around last time, wiggling around. That meant you weren't tucked in. So we had Neil bring I'm going to just repeat this a couple of times, but the way that you lock in on the bench press, if this is your foot, toes, heels, and this is the floor, you walk your feet back till your heel lifts up naturally, and then you wedge about an inch, and then you wedge the heel down on the ground, and that will tighten up the quads automatically. You'll just feel those muscles tighten up and you'll be locked in there real tight, which improves the overall stability and lets you focus on moving the weight and not rocking around on the bench and stuff like that. So stability is the name of the game for the bench press. So let's see here. The other issue was your elbows flaring out. This is a good grip for you, so that when you're fresh, like this is moving well. Notice how tight your lower body is. That's great. And then we're going to start to see some asymmetry here where you're dropping the right hand a little bit or the left hand is moving faster. And ooh, yeah. I mean, this is a heavy set, so we're going to see some deviations in form, but overall this looks like a million times better than the last time. Much more stable, much smoother, less elbow flare on the way up, right? Elbows are staying mostly under the wrists. Obviously, like we talked about before, when you start to fatigue on the bench press, you know, the bar wants to default to the most mechanically efficient position, which is over here rather than down here. So you're going to see the elbows travel out. It's just, you got to do your best to not let that happen. But on a grinder like this, like it's going to happen a little bit. So the only thing left to really deal with is that asymmetry in your hands. And we talked about this on another bench press form check with, I think, Luke. And the cue, or the thing you need to think about really, or the thing that I would be yelling at you if I was standing behind you, spotting you, would be from here, as you start to drive, you got to focus on this arm. You got to get all your focus on your right hand and just drive that up. So I would yell at you, push with your right, push harder with your right, which sounds like very simple, obvious advice, but when you yell it loud enough at the lifter, a lot of times that evens out. So there's nothing you can really do other than focus on that hand and just put your attention to the one that's lagging and see if you can try and move that hand faster and even it out. But aside from that, these are great. These look a lot better. You look very stable here, even under, you know, even on this rep, you're holding your form and just riding it out. It's just a little lag between the arms. So great job. I think the grip is pretty good, but like I said, if you want to throw up another one or just, you know, so I could see you set it up, that might be useful. But overall, I mean, this is a pretty solid bench press. You're taking your time, getting your breath, pausing between reps, right? Going through, allowing yourself to reset, retighten everything. And the legs look a lot better. So you're more stable, able to control the bar even as it gets particularly tough. So great job, man. That was great. So thanks for submitting. And let's go back to the, oh, we got a comment. All right. So we got someone else dropping a comment in here. The grip looks very wide and makes elbows flare out. I used to bench like this and it really killed my shoulders. I would consider changing it. Some of the big benchers are just inside the rings, but that's up to you. Okay, so I have to disagree with this, and I'll tell you why. First of all, the last thing, some big benchers are just inside the rings, but that's up to you. The reason big benchers take a wider grip, are just inside the rings, so you're talking about taking a narrow grip. I thought you were talking about the ring that is the legal limit for the bench press width, like wide. So I mean, basically, we want the grip because we're strength training and not powerlifting, right? We're not competing in powerlifting. Our criteria, and we talked about this last time, is we want to use the we want to work the most amount of muscle mass over the longest range of motion using the most weight. Most muscle mass, longest range of motion, most weight. Okay, those are the 3 criteria we have to meet to decide how we're going to perform an exercise. And so most amount of muscle mass, longest range of motion, right? Because that's how we get bigger and stronger, is by stressing muscle mass and taking it over a long range of motion. So the reason that I want the grip that he has, which puts when the bar is on the chest, the forearms are vertical, okay? Is like we talked about earlier. Vertical forearms take the shoulder through the longest range of motion, right? Which means we are taking that weight through the longest range of motion possible. Any deviation from that grip, which produces a vertical forearm at the bottom, is going to shorten the range of motion. So I just talked about this, but if we go to a closer grip, then what was here, right? When I had vertical forearms, and it's kind of hard to show you this, but when I pull my grip in closer, the elbows come up, right? So it reduces the range of motion around the shoulder, okay? Similarly, if I'm here and I take a wide powerlifting grip, it shortens the range of motion around the shoulder. So that's why powerlifters use the widest grip possible. Now, they often train with a more narrow neutral grip because they want to work all that muscle mass. And then as they get closer to the meet, where the goal of the meet is to lift as much weight as possible, they start widening their grip, okay, to artificially shorten the range of motion so that they can lift more weight. But that's why that's the difference between strength training and powerlifting. Powerlifting is a sport where you try and see how much weight you can lift. Strength training is a activity, endeavor, journey where you use the weight to get stronger. So you don't want to shorten the range of motion. It's the same reason that we don't sumo deadlift, because you can lift more weight, but that is one of the criteria. You sacrifice the other criteria, which is most amount of muscle mass and longest range of motion. Okay, so if you want to lift as much weight as possible, maybe the sumo deadlift is something you should, incorporate if you're competing. If you're trying to get your body strong by lifting weight, you want to use the longest range of motion possible. So widening the grip is out, and shortening the grip or narrowing the grip is out, because again, you're sacrificing range of motion around the shoulder. You're not stretching the pecs as far as they could go. And so what else did you say in the comment here? It doesn't necessarily cause the elbows to flare out. It may have caused your elbows to flare out because you weren't able to hold them in, which is a technique thing that you can work on. But, every client I've coached is going to takes a grip that puts a vertical forearm, or that, when the bar is on the chest. And yeah, sure, the tendency is to allow the elbows to flare, but you can train that. So that's an error. It would be like, saying I don't conventional deadlift because my back rounds. Well, yeah, but that's a mistake, and you need to learn how to fix that. So you can absolutely keep the elbows tucked with a bench press with grip that we want, that puts the longest range of motion on the shoulders, but you have to be aware of it. You have to notice that error and fix it. So now I know in your case, I believe if you're who I'm thinking of, then the reason that you narrowed your grip is because it was irritating your shoulders. Now, so you chose a narrower grip, and that's fine. It's like, if a certain version of the lift is hurting and another version isn't, it's better to use the one that doesn't hurt so you can at least bench press. But in an ideal situation with a young guy that doesn't have any shoulder issues, there's no reason he should narrow his grip. And if he's having let me back up, the issue that you may have been having, which is why it was killing your shoulders, was because you were allowing them to, flare out like that, which will have, we talked about this last time. So if you missed this, the bench press from a physics perspective, or from a mechanical efficiency perspective, the best place to touch your chest on the bench press would be here, directly over the shoulder joint, right? But in order to do that, your elbows would have to be up like this, like at 90 degrees, okay? And you can't do that because your rotator cuff tendon inserts through a little space in the shoulder joint, right? You've got the AC joint up here, and then you've got the head of the humerus. and there's a little gap in there when your arm's down here. As you lift your elbow up closer to 90 degrees, that little gap closes and you impinge your rotator cuff tendon. And so if you're here and then you do a bunch of reps over time, you're basically going to saw a hole in your rotator cuff and have to have surgery. So that's why elbows flaring impinges that tendon and then starts to shred it over, especially if you're older and you have a bone spur or something like that. It's going to destroy your shoulders. But again, if we took the anatomy requirements out of it, just bench pressing to here would be, you know, physically, from a physics perspective, the most efficient way to move that load. We can't do that if we want to use the bench press because we're going to have surgery. So if we touch down here, right, if we move the contact point down here, that automatically drops the elbows to about, you know, 45 degrees, something like that. And when that happens, that space opens up and we can bench down here all day and not shred your rotator cuff tendon. So that's why we make that accommodation. Every other exercise, we want you to be directly over the balance point, right? Midfoot, you know, the shoulder joint. But in the bench press, we just can't do that if we want to use the lift for any length of time and not get hurt. So we have to touch down here, and then the bar travel is at an angle like that. It starts here and then it touches down here and goes back, but it's a compromise. However, that position with the elbows down is what allows us to use the lift and not hurt ourselves. But you have to learn to not let your elbows flare, because when it's heavy, the bar is going to default, or your body is going to default to the most mechanically efficient position. That's why the elbows want to raise up like that. Okay, because it's like this is like, all I can do to get this up is go back to this touch point, but you're going to screw yourself that way. So you have to learn to not do that. And you can absolutely learn to not do that. But if you have a lifter who chronically has this thing happening with their elbows and flaring out, yeah, it's no wonder your shoulders are hurting, because that's exactly what's happening. You're just impinging that rotator cuff tendon and pissing them off. So if you're able to keep your scapula pulled back and drop the elbows, you can bench pain-free with any grip, really. So there's no reason that I would recommend that this gentleman, that Neil, should change his grip at all, since he doesn't have shoulder pain and he's using the maximum range of motion, which is what we want. As long as he can keep those elbows tucked, he's going to be fine. So what may have happened in your case is that by narrowing the grip and reducing the bar travel and the range of motion, you limited how much you could piss off that rotator cuff tendon and it doesn't hurt, which is totally fine. Like, you can, as long as you're bench pressing, that's great. I'm happy. And if you found a way to do it without pain, then use that method. But there's, countless lifters who bench real heavy weight with all widths of grip and manage to keep their elbows tucked. So it's not like that has to happen if you're benching with a wide grip, or wider grip. We figure it as like a neutral grip. But anyway, just my 2 cents. What do I know? But thanks for the comment, and thanks for posting, Neil, and we will move on to the next guy. All right, we got Luke, Jeep and Steak here. Hey, Paul, new Addy Power shoes should arrive today. Squat felt better by working on centering my balance at the top for each rep. I was biased to my heels on the last form check. I think I noticed some knee cave on the way up at the end of the top set. I made sure to cue to hold the knee out while coming back up on the back offset. Okay, let's take a look. I look forward to having carbs again after Monday's weigh-in. All right, Luke's one of our guys who's been killing it on the fat loss challenge, and he's lost a bunch of weight. So we're all ready for this thing to be over, and so we can enjoy the holidays. All right, so let's check out Luke's form here and see how we're doing. So we got some, we were thinking those shoes might be a little worn and wobbly, so we'll see how the new ones go. These are obviously the old ones, but let's check here. Grip looks good. All right. Let's see those knees. Okay. All right. Oh, just 3? All right, let me watch that one more time. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Press, okay. How do I get out of this without killing my video recording? All right, let's watch this again. I think your toe angle may be a little excessive. Again, the camera plays tricks on me, but that looks like a very wide toe angle. And that may be the problem, because if your toes are pointed out too much, it's almost impossible to shove your knees out in line with them. Because the goal is, if your knee's here, your toes here. So it's like a perfectly straight, the knee is directly in line with the angle of the toes. But if you have an excessive toe angle, the knees are almost automatically going to cave. So I might actually turn your toes in just a little bit, closer to like maybe 35, 40 degrees. Maybe 35, 30 degrees even. So the hips are going back and up just a little bit. And that's usually, like we've talked about before, a symptom of the knee cave. Let's take a look at your lighter set and see if I can get a different toe angle or something, just to confirm that. Oh, no, same angle. That's cool. Okay, let's watch these. I mean, overall, your squats are great, I think, but I'll nitpick a little bit. You're holding your back angle perfectly on the way up on these. Yeah, this is a good set, so we don't even need to talk about this. But yeah, maybe the toe angle's a little wide. All right. Okay, let's watch this one more time, and then I'll give you a couple things to work on. Yeah, you could actually, if you watch real quick, you'll see that right before you go down, you do this little rock back onto your heels a little bit. If you watch here, just keep your eyes on that part, and you'll see like you kind of just shift your weight back. It's very subtle, but you can see your foot kind of moving around. And again, you got a lot of weight on your back, so you're going to sort of default to that position. Depth is great. You can see your toe kind of lifting up like that, like flapping. Okay, so I think the new shoes will help with that, but just be conscious of having more pressure on the balls of your feet before you start the rep. You can do whatever you want in the meantime while you're resetting, but before you kind of take your breath and go, just rock a little forward and then take your breath, or as you take your breath, you kind of put a little more pressure on your toes, not much. Okay, the main one, and then we're gonna turn the toes in just like maybe 2 inches on each side, turn them in a little bit, see if that, I bet you you'll be able to keep the knees out a little bit better if you do that. The one thing that I do want to talk about is upper back tightness, right? So if we watch how you take your breath and set for the rep, right? Let's see if I can catch it here. There's your breath. Okay, now notice when you took your breath, not a whole lot happened up here in terms of lifting the chest and tightening, right? You're kind of here and you're just like, right? And what I want to see is, okay, now with the weight on your back, it's not going to be as dramatic as I can make it here, but ultimately I want you thinking about, puffing that chest up, like chest up, shrug into the bar, right? And it's part of the breathing, like that. Okay. And again, it's not going to move that much because you got, what is it? 270, 280, 290 on there, something like that. 303, 300. Okay. Oh, what is that? Like a 35? Okay. But what's going to happen then is, because you didn't really get that upper back tight, it's going to happen while you're going down. Okay. So if we watch your elbows and your back there, notice the difference. Notice this like flare. Now this right here is what it should look like at the top in a perfect scenario. Okay. So let's go back here and I'll try and slow this down and we can watch the arch. Okay, so what we're watching for is as you go down, you're gonna do this. As the bar's moving, you're gonna do what I wanted you to do at the top of the rep. Okay, so watch this in slow motion and you'll see it. If we're looking right at your upper back, you're gonna start the movement. And there, that's that. So by the halfway point, now you've got that tight upper back, okay? Common thing we talk about all the time. We don't want anything moving from your head to your hip, okay? From this point to this point, I don't want anything moving, deforming, shifting none of it's involved in what it is required to do the squat. So all of that stuff should be taken care of before you start the descent, just like in the bench press. All the tightening and wiggling and all that stuff, getting your chest up, pinching, that needs to happen before you start lowering the bar. You don't want to try and set your back on a deadlift after you've already picked up the weight. So you want to set it, and then in the squat, all you're going to do is lean over, right? So you're here. We want everything set from here to here. Okay, and then the only thing that changes when you start the squat is that this segment just hinges over this way. Okay, this little, it just goes like this. It doesn't go like this and tighten up, right? Because that shifts the weight around, and it should already be tight anyway if you want this to be really efficient. So, simple fix to say, hard to do, but when you take that breath, that's when I want you to tighten up. So you're here, you lock out, and you big breath, and then hold it, and then just hinge over at the waist, just lean over, instead of trying to do it on the way down. And then nothing will move, and the rep will be a lot smoother and more efficient. Okay, so toes in a little bit. Make sure in that reset progression, the checklist, you got a little bit more weight on the balls of the feet, and then get that chest up a little bit more dramatically and tight, and hold it just like you're setting it. Think of exactly like setting your back in a deadlift. Breathe, squeeze your chest up, hold, and then you pull. Breathe, squeeze your chest up, hold, and then you lean over. Okay? And I think if you do all that stuff, you'll clean this up, but these are great, man. So very good work. Thanks for posting. Work on it. Post it again. Have we seen your deadlift in a while? Or I don't know if we've ever seen it, but I assume we have. But throw that up and let's take a look. I know we checked your bench out. All right. Good. And yeah, I'll see you Monday for our final check-in. Okay, this one, I did look ahead a little bit because I saw some comments here that this video did not load. So we got Drew, who posted a couple paragraphs on squat, balance issues, something like that. But I don't know if this works. So if it does, I'll read the comment. And if it doesn't, no, not available anymore. All right, Drew, listen, man, save this for next time and make sure your link works. I messaged you separately because I wanted you to have an opportunity to fix it, but it's not fixed and I'm recording. So we'll have to save this for another time. Okay, we got, looks like we got one more. This is gonna be a quick one. Like we're at the 30-minute mark here. Okay. All right. Oh, so this is the gentleman who commented on the bench press, and now we looked at his bench press. I had some comments on that, and he fixed his feet. So let's take a look. Let's see if this looks any better. So just as a recap, we had some of the things that we talked about last time were so feet were pulled way back with just like the toes on the ground, and then that caused a lot of instability. There was a lot of wiggling. I remember when you took the bar out, you immediately started the descent rather than, bringing the bar out over your shoulders and then resetting and retightening and then starting the rep. So there wasn't a lot of a break between each rep to tighten everything back up. And then the head was coming up and you were sort of doing this rocking and heaving motion with the bar. So I know I commented on all that stuff, but let's take a look and see what you fixed and if it looks any better. Okay, here we go. Okay. All right, oh, this is a lot better. Much better. Oh, you got a German Shepherd too. Good pause down there. This is a lot better, like a lot more controlled. I need to know everything about this dog. Clint is like right down. Hey buddy, there's a puppy on the screen. You know that? Yeah, you're too bored. Okay. They love being in the gym, man. They love being in there when you're working out. Okay, so great work on the feet. You look a lot more stable here. Now, again, I'm just gonna go through this kind of in order as I see it. This is coming out and dropping a little too quickly for me. So unrack it, right? And then your butt, you took your butt up to take it out, which is fine, but put your butt down and see before it's just the bar actually never stops moving. So if you think about this in competition, in competition, in a powerlifting competition, they hand it off to you and you have to sit. The first command in the bench press is start. So the judge will wait for you to show that you have complete control of that bar before he gives you the command to start the rep down, okay? So if you just take it out from the spotter and start going, you're gonna fail. Now you're gonna get your lift disqualified. You're not competing here, but there's a reason for that, which is before you start a rep with heavy weight, you need to make sure that you're completely in control, especially if you have sensitive shoulders, right? If you've got, it's so easy to piss your shoulders off, and a wayward bench press is a great way to do that. So if you're unracking it and the bar's moving and then you just start going, you didn't establish control of that bar. And imagine you had 400 pounds on here and you just get it a little, like half an inch off of balance, you're screwed. That thing's gonna collapse on your chest. So you wanna take it out, unrack it, pull it over to the balance point, and then make sure you have it and then reset before you go. So make sure it's balanced and then take a breath, squeeze your chest up, pull your shoulders back, engage the legs, make sure the bar's not moving, and then you just bring it down in this, like almost like a machine. Okay, so if we just keep our eyes on the barbell, just watch and you look and tell me if you think it's ever stable, right? But it never stops moving, right? You never hit, now there, you're doing a decent job pausing. Like that's what I want. So just consider unracking it to be like a rep. Just the act of unracking it is like a mini rep. So you do a rep and you reset and then bring it down. So just slow that down a little bit. So you're actually doing a little pause on the belly here and then kind of using an active push with the legs to heave it up. That's okay. There are a lot of guys who recommend doing it that way. This like kind of heave, as long as it's not excessive and you're not using your hips to get the bar back up. Personally, I like to be as stable and locked in on the bench and then just use my pecs and shoulders and triceps to get it up. I don't want to use any momentum from my lower body to get that weight started, just because I'm not trying to set crazy bench PRs anymore. I'm just trying to build the chest muscles as much as I can. So I don't want any help from the legs other than stability. But I don't have a huge problem with what you're doing. It's not excessive. We did talk before about the point you're touching very low on the chest, almost like the abs. And again, if you look at your elbow, right, this angle here, it's hard to tell, but your tricep is basically like perpendicular to the floor, right? So you're basically touching down here, right? Your tricep is like this. Now, if you took a wider grip, right, to, you got one of your fingers on the ring there, and which puts the forearms, again, vertical forearms, that's going to maximize the shoulder and elbow travel. It's going to do the full range of motion. And you touched a little higher, right? It doesn't look like I'm wearing pants. I promise I'm not pantsless. So rather than touching down here, you're touching here. Okay, now the elbows are gonna travel all the way back here, right? You're gonna get that much more range of motion versus bringing the bar closer to your abs and narrowing the grip. Now we're here. So it's this versus this. Obviously, if your shoulders can tolerate it, we want the most range of motion, the longest range of motion, so we can work the most amount of muscle tissue. However, you've talked about having chronic shoulder pain and reducing the range of motion, right? Shortening it is gonna, I mean, it's not surprising that that doesn't hurt as much, especially with the narrower grip, right? Because we talked about when I was commenting on your comment earlier in this video, the narrower grip reduces the range of motion around the shoulder. So does touching lower, right? And that pain, what pisses your shoulders off in the bench press is this shoulder abduction right here. Adduction, abduction. I always screw these up. Yeah. So your adductors, right? Yeah. Okay. So anyway, bringing the elbows up here to this 90-degree angle, right? The flaring, as we call it, right? You flare your elbows out. That's what pisses off the shoulders. So the more that you're down here like this, right? Now the elbow's down at like, I mean, it's almost down here. So we got 45 degrees, 90 degrees, right? You're down here like this. The impinging the rotator cuff tendon from this position is like almost impossible. So my guess is you were taking a wider grip. You had the elbow flare, which is very natural. It never got corrected. You never learned how to maintain this elbow position or the shoulder position down here to avoid. And so it was constantly flaring. You pissed off your rotator cuff. It's angry and God knows what else, bone spurs, arthritis, all of the stuff I have. And yeah, if I bench like this, my shoulders scream at me for days. So this is probably why it's more comfortable. You can play around with widening it and keeping it tucked and see if it hurts. But if you've tried that before and this is the best thing, then it is what it is. And it's still, you're still in the gym lifting weight, which is, I will always applaud you for that. So, but let's go back to the overall form here. Now, if you're not competing, you do not have to pause on your chest down here. You have to touch lightly and then come back up and keep the tension on the muscles. If you're prepping for a meet or something like that, then you have to work on that pause. But the pause will just make it harder, right? So I don't have you go down to the bottom of a squat and pause. Like that will make it harder, but we don't have to do that, right? I'd rather have you get that stretch reflex. Same thing in the bench press. There is a stretch reflex. It's going to be a little bit limited if you're not stretching the full range of motion, right? Because you're not stretching the rubber bands out that create that stretch reflex. If you're down here, you're not going to get much of a bounce. If you're up here, you're going to get more of a pop that you want to use. And if you pause on the chest, you kill that bounce. Okay. But just a little thing. So I would just tap and go rather than, because again, it looks like the part of the thing is you come down here and when it sits on your chest, you're very slightly kind of relaxing, right? Rather than maintaining this tension on the pecs, right? And then rocketing it up, you're bringing it down. And then once it's on your chest, you let a little bit of the weight sit on your chest and then you have to retighten, which makes it harder. It's much better to pull that bar down to you under tension, like you're pulling back on a slingshot, right? Stretching out that rubber band. And then it's like, when it's on your chest, it's maximum tension. It's just, right? And then you just let it, it's almost like you're letting it go to fire. If you come down here, right? And then you kind of relax a little bit, you lose all that tension. And then you're not only trying to push the weight up, but you're trying to get tight again to retighten everything that you already, this is the easiest place to get tight is when you're locked out, right? It's like if you go down to the bottom of a squat and you let your knees cave in or you just pause and like relax, you're dead. Like you're not dead. You're gonna have a hard time coming back up. Okay. We see this a lot when we have people work on box squats, right? Now I often use a box as a target. I like the rubber band better because you can't sit on it, because the problem with the box is I want my client to maintain their tightness, stretch out the adductors when they squat, and then just tap the box as like a reference, like a tactile target. They just tap it and they come up. But a lot of times they go down and they kind of unload a little bit on it. Once you get loose, once you lose that tension, you're screwed. It's so hard to retighten something that got loose while you are doing the rep. It's so much easier to get tight at the top when you're locked out and then hold that tightness the whole time, which is what I want. So this little pause that you've got in here is actually, it's not much, but it's a little bit of relaxation that you then have to try and get back as you're trying to move the weight. So my suggestion, and you can obviously do whatever you want, I'm just trying to help, would be to not pause on your chest. Bring it down, right? And then touch and drive it up. Just a tap. It, like, in other words, the bar never stops moving, okay? Except when it gets back to lockout. Then you stop and reset, and then you go back down, you tap and explode up, right? I think that will help. I think if you try this with whatever weight you're kind of getting stuck at, try a set where you just touch and go. You know, don't bounce it off your chest. Bring it down under control once you feel the contact fire up. But get rid of that little pause for a set and just see if the last rep is easier than the way that you normally do it. I think it will be. I think you'll actually still reset at the top, but each rep, get rid of that pause, just touch and go. And I think you'll find that the 5th rep of that way of doing it, a set where you do it that way, and the 5th rep of a set where you're doing this longer pause and relaxing a little bit is going to be a lot easier. But you can try it out, experiment, see what you think. Overall, you know, the feet look way better. I hope they feel better and than what you were doing before. But you did a good job taking my notes and getting yourself stable in there. Your head's on the bench. You're not doing the rocking thing. This looks like a lot better than what we saw last time. So great work. Thank you for posting an update. It's very cool to be able to, you know, see how people incorporate cues and what they get done. And you did a great job, man. So I hope the shoulders feel better and, you know, you can play around with it, but I'm assuming you've already done that and this is kind of like where you are. So that's totally fine. So, but let's take a look at your squat or something else, because I'm sure there's some other things going on that we could work on. And thank you for posting. I think that's it for today, which is a record, pretty short day. Well, we didn't have Drew's post, but thanks guys. So we got through it and we're alive and we're still together. So thank you guys. Next week is, I believe I am going to be back in Los Angeles. I'm driving home for the holidays to see family. So I may be able to find a way to do a Form Check Friday, but I'm not committing to it yet. So I may be out next week, but I'll hopefully be back the week after. But I'll keep you guys posted. If I don't see you on YouTube, have a fantastic Christmas. Enjoy it with friends and family. And we'll definitely try and get one of these done before New Year's. But it's just been, the book came out, about a year ago in December. So it's been a year. I wasn't doing this. It's now the highlight of my week. And it's just been so cool to interact with you guys and see this community form around the book and the programs and, you know, all the stuff that we're talking about. And it's just, I'm very grateful, you know, kind of reflecting at the end of the year for everybody who's been a part of this whole thing, whatever the hell it is and whatever the hell it's going to become. But so thank you all for being here, for watching, for posting, for commenting, for asking questions, for just participating, and for being like civil to each other. Our Reddit community is like a little sliver of a Reddit where everybody's nice and we don't have any trolls or anything yet. So hopefully it stays that way. And but you guys are awesome, and I look forward to doing this again very soon. And into next year and beyond, and we'll just keep getting stronger and more jacked and leaner and whatever else we decide to do, but we'll do it together. So thank you very much, and I will see you guys very soon.